March 2015, Southern Ural. A tourist from Kazan, Lilia Ramazanova, sets out on a hike to Mount Iremel with her two children, Diana, who is 13, and Chingis, who is 6. No gear, no warm clothes, no food, not even matches. Nothing that could be called preparation. Instead, blind faith and an inner conviction of being chosen together. The woman believed that everything would go well. But before I start the video, I need to make a digression. Due to the fact that YouTube has been flooded with channels featuring artificial intelligence, generated stories pretending to be true crime, but with absolutely no factual basis and a literary style. The thing about my channel is that I cover real cases, but with a creative presentation, so it can be confusing. So, because of this, from now on I'll always try to make it clear. Sources and additional materials, meaning everything that can confirm the facts, in the post on Telegram by Strashnotai, and I will leave links to such posts under the video accordingly. So for those who can't tell the difference between an artificial intelligence and a human, but still stubbornly write comments, this is artificial intelligence. No, this is not artificial intelligence. On my channel, there are real cases, but they're presented not in a Wikipedia style, but in an artistic, interesting way, so that watching isn't boring, and so that it's at least somehow different from an actual protocol or interrogation. And now, let's continue. So, Lilia Ramazanova went hiking in the mountains with two children, without any preparation, but she believed that everything would go well. She had children and mountains with her. Initially there were 4. In Kazan, Ramazanova and her friend agreed to go together. The woman walked with them for about 7 kilometers and then she turned back. The exact reason is unknown. Maybe she got tired, maybe she sensed something was wrong, or maybe she got scared. There is unconfirmed information that the friend was pregnant and she felt unwell from climbing the mountains. At kilometer 7 of the route, the group stopped to rest. The tourists had a snack and drank some tea, after which they said goodbye to their friend and she safely returned to the rented house at the foot of the mountain. After she left, Ramazanova was alone with the children. They chose a strange route, not the shortest and not the safest. They took a detour along a path that is hardly used in winter. Meanwhile, Lilia navigated using the tracks instead of the map. The tracks were fresh. They were left by a man who had gotten lost in that area himself a few days earlier. He was later found alive but with frostbite. Ramazanova knew about this but still followed his path as if she was trying to repeat it. The weather on Yeremil is unpredictable. Even in August it can snow there. The end of March is no longer winter, but it's not quite spring yet. The snow is still deep, the winds are piercing, and the temperature can drop to -30, especially at night. Navigators don't work in these places. Phones are useless. There's no signal. It's just you and the wide expanse. On March 29th, they didn't return at the agreed time. Her friend and the landlord of the house where Ramazanova rented a room became worried. They knew what time the tourists were supposed to come down. They knew the woman was alone with her children. The landlord understood that overconfident tourists needed to be monitored. He notified the Ministry of Emergency Situations. The next morning, a large-scale rescue operation began. More than 200 people took part in it. Rescuers, volunteers, and forest rangers. They used ATVs, snowmobiles, and a helicopter. The search teams worked in 2 shifts. One of the witnesses of the search later recalled, "I was there on March 29th and 30th. On the morning of the 30th, we set out on the route. 20 minutes before we set out, I found out that this family was missing. The search began. Interestingly, the weather on both days was just perfect. Visibility was 100%, not a cloud in the sky. It was impossible to get lost. At the foot of the mountain, I saw a couple of tourists find a bag with frozen water, a child's t-shirt and a hood. How it ended up there is unclear. It's about an hour's walk from that place to the swamp. Even a child could find their way there. Regarding the theory about the crevice, which was mentioned but not confirmed, there are no crevices in the swamp area where they were found. It's unclear how they got there or why they stayed. The rescue operation really looked impressive. A helicopter was circling. There were several groups of emergency workers rushing on snowmobiles. At the checkpoint, there were 2 emergency vehicles and 1 police car. You really need to climb to the summit carefully. You can really slip or twist your arm on the scree, but I haven't seen any crevices big enough to fall into. By the evening of March 30, the Ramazanov and his son were found. They were lying next to each other, huddled together, unconscious and frozen. The girl was found sitting apart, motionless with closed eyes. She was not breathing and was dressed too lightly. It was later found that Diana had removed her jacket and given it to her brother. He was freezing, she froze. It was her choice. The doctors determined the cause of death was hypothermia, and the autopsy revealed that the girl was missing 1 lung. She was contraindicated for any physical activity. Mountain air, hypoxia, pressure drops, all of this was deadly dangerous from the very beginning. But her mother took her to the summit. The family practiced Krishnaism. By the way, I know about the Krishna followers because in our city they walk down the street and sing like this: Hare Krishna, Hare Ramazan, Hare Rama. And they also give out cookies, so of course I'm very friendly with them and eat their cookies. Obviously you can instantly tell they're cultists. Although at first you might think that Krishnites are just some kind of Indians, but no, it's really a sect. Really, they have those cult-like enlightened faces, and Lilia apparently really did follow Krishnaism. She kept a strict diet without animal protein. The children didn't eat meat, didn't wear wool, only plant-based from birth. They practiced strange methods of healing. In winter, the children went to school in summer shoes, without gloves, without hats. Hardening, as Ramazanova called it. Teachers recalled Diana coming to school in summer shoes even in minus 20 degrees. The doctors were not surprised. The girl had chronic anemia, a weakened immune system, and dystrophy. The teachers remembered how Diana would patiently sit in class, never complained, was quiet and kind. She never argued with anyone and often helped other children. She would share her breakfast even though she was only given fruit to take with her. If someone forgot their notebooks, if someone cried, she would silently give them a hug. When Ramazanova regained consciousness, she uttered a phrase later quoted by all the media. The mountains have claimed their sacrifice. That's what the spirits decided, so that we wouldn't live the way we used to. Investigators tried to question the woman, but the doctors refused. Her condition is serious, both physically and mentally. At her mother's insistence, Diana was cremated, and the girl's ashes were scattered on Yeramel, so she would remain with the mountains, with those who took her. The investigation was met with silence. The children's father didn't come to interrogations, didn't respond to summons. He explained, "I don't want you to finish off my wife. She already lost a child." The family did everything to isolate themselves from the outside world. Closed, secretive. The staff at the school Diana attended tried to make contact, but they weren't allowed in. The medical staff had warned for a long time, but no one listened. Chingiz survived, with frostbite, with injuries, with memories. The doctors partially saved his legs. Later, the boy had several toes amputated. He couldn't walk for a long time and went through rehabilitation. Now he is a teenager. His whereabouts are not disclosed. After Diana's death, a discussion began in society. As always, people asked who was to blame, the mother, religion, or indifference. There were those who demanded a trial, and there were those who, of course, called for the death penalty. But there were also those who asked for forgiveness for her. Some called her a murderer, others a victim of her own beliefs. The investigation found the family had lived in isolation for a long time. The children were not registered with pediatricians, did not undergo medical checkups, did not participate in school excursions, and did not attend clubs. They were isolated under the pretext of spiritual development, toughened, elevated, and prepared for life outside the system, but were not prepared for the cold. Later, more facts emerged. Religious rituals were practiced in the family, refusal of medical treatment, dietary restrictions, and submission to a higher will. The boy had old signs of hypothermia on his body. This wasn't the first time. Rescuers said that no one should climb Yeremel with children without preparation, even in the summer. This is not a walk, it's a mountain. One of the rescuers who carried the mother on a stretcher later said, "I didn't know who I felt more sorry for, the girl who died or the woman who had to live with this." The teachers at school number 141 in Kazan, where Diana studied, held a farewell. The students brought flowers and collected money for the family. They remembered her as a quiet, bright girl who never complained. One of the teachers said if anyone could give her jacket to her brother, it was her. Meanwhile, people were demanding different things. Some wanted the woman to be imprisoned, some wanted her to be forcibly treated, and some wanted her to be left alone. Posts appeared on the internet calling her a cultist, insane, and dangerous. But there were other voices too. Some said she was just a mother who wanted the best but couldn't cope. However, law enforcement did not believe that Ramazanova's mistake was unintentional. Unfortunately, the police often have to deal with parents who try to get rid of unwanted children by staging an accident. For example, right now there is an ongoing trial against a resident of the Chelyabinsk region who hired an acquaintance to drown her 12-year-old daughter. On April 16, 2025, the woman invited her 36-year-old neighbor over under the pretense of helping with chores. While he was busy with the tools, the woman offered him 100,000 rubles if he would take her daughter to the river and stage what would look like an accidental death. She spoke calmly and confidently as if she were discussing the sale of a calf. The man thought he had misheard. He asked again. The woman repeated, "Drown her." She repeated it a second time and a third time with emphasis as if she was already getting angry. Why did he have to explain the obvious? He didn't argue, just nodded and pretended to agree. The girl went with him, suspecting nothing. The man hid her at his house and went to the police himself. The girl was rescued and her mother was detained. According to preliminary information, the family recently moved to the Chelyabinsk region from the Sverdlovsk region. There, the woman had already come to the attention of the police for administrative violations. She spoke simply about her motives. "I can't stand her behavior." In the criminal case, this is described as an attempted organization of the murder of a minor, but such a sophisticated approach is still rare. Much more often, cruel mothers use cold against their children. For example, in February 2022, a 33-year-old woman took her 3 children to a forest area near New Moscow and left them there in the freezing cold. The woman clearly did this intentionally. Before leaving, she stripped the children naked and took their clothes with her. The youngest girl was only 2 years and 10 months old, and the boys were 2 and 10 years old. A local man noticed the woman. He was walking his dog nearby and saw a strange scene. There were children's clothes lying near the parked car, and a woman was walking through the snow toward the forest with 3 undressed children. He called the police and tried to stop her himself. She walked farther away, occasionally setting the children on the snow and speaking to them. They say she told the children to pray before they died, then left them and ran away. The children spent around 40 minutes in the cold. They were found and taken to intensive care with signs of hypothermia. The children suffered severe frostbite. One of them fell into a coma. A criminal case was initiated against the mother under the article of attempted murder of minors who are in a helpless state. The woman was detained. It was later revealed she was the mistress of a married businessman, a jewelry house director from the capital, and the children were interfering with her plan to take him from his family. It turned out that he was the father of the 2 youngest children. When everything came to light, the businessman swore that he wouldn't abandon the little ones and would definitely take them in, but soon the children were placed in the care of their mother's relatives. The businessman refused to comment and only posted on Instagram, which is banned in Russia but may be allowed elsewhere. The children will live in a complete family and will not lack anything. Their mother is in the hospital, crying about what happened. She has no explanation. Similar cases happen in Russia almost every winter. The climate here is not like a resort, and it's easy to take the life of an unwanted child in a way that doesn't look like an intentional crime. Here are just a few such stories. 2021 Saratov region. On December 22, in a ravine near the village, local residents found two undressed children. The sources for this news will also be in the general post with all the sources on Telegram. The 8-year-old boy eventually died. His 5-year-old sister was taken to intensive care in serious condition. They were without outerwear. It's freezing outside. It was later revealed that the children lived with their mother. The woman was raising them alone. On the day of the tragedy, she wrote to the school that her son wouldn't come. Later, when the principal tried to find out where the child was, the mother replied briefly, "He's out for a walk," and hung up. Neighbors said that the family had recently moved to Prokudino. The parents divorced soon after. The woman tried to transfer her son to homeschooling, but was refused. After that, she left the village, but unexpectedly returned in November. When police officers tried to call the mother, she did not answer. Later, she got in touch and admitted, "I kicked them out of the house myself. I didn't see a future for them." Then she denied those words, saying that the heating in the house broke down at night and the children froze to death. She panicked and led them into the ravine. In the end, investigators found out that the mother got angry at the children because they were misbehaving and strangled them with a scarf. When the little ones lost consciousness, the mother got scared and started looking for a way to cover up the crime. Taking the still living children out into the cold and hiding them in a ravine seemed to her like the best solution. And here is December 2024. In Nizhny Novgorod, a woman filmed her 6-month-old baby lying on the snow without clothes and crying. Unfortunately, due to YouTube's censorship, I can't show some documentary materials, so I'll leave them in the Telegram channel /Noti. Go ahead, subscribe and watch. The link is below the video. For some reason, she sent the recording to her acquaintances, who then posted it online. Later, the woman explained that she was tired and didn't want children. She has 4 of them. She said that the children's father is a drug addict and she can't handle it alone. After the video was posted online, the investigative committee got involved. An investigation began and Child Protective Services took the children away. November 25, 2016, Chelyabinsk. A woman left her son, who was not dressed for the weather, near the roadside in the freezing cold and got into a car that came for her and drove away. The mother ignored the child's tears and cries. Passers-by noticed that the lightly dressed child was standing alone without any adults. He was crying. People called the police. During the investigation, it was established that the woman systematically neglected her duties. She did not feed the child, did not buy him clothes, left him with strangers, swore at him, and drank a lot. She had already been held administratively liable twice, but her behavior did not change. After this incident, a criminal case was initiated against the mother, and in 2024, in the Chelyabinsk region, on the morning of November 5, the body of a newborn was found in an unheated bathhouse of a private house. According to the investigation, the child died from hypothermia. The mother gave birth to the baby by herself and left it to die. The 32-year-old woman from Sulia near Sadka concealed her pregnancy, skipped consultations, and gave birth alone in the bathhouse. After giving birth, she put the crying boy into a top-loading washing machine and left. At night, the temperature dropped to -8 degrees. The room was not heated. The next day, the woman felt unwell. She went to the hospital, and there they noticed that she had recently given birth. The medical staff informed the police. When the response team arrived at the house, the child was already dead. The preliminary version says the woman neither intended to abandon the child nor wanted to give the child to protective services. She feared the neighbors would find out and gossip. And here is 2017 Whiskey District is also in the Chelyabinsk region. A 63-year-old local woman was sentenced to 8 years in prison. According to the investigation, on New Year's Eve she tried to take the life of a baby to get revenge on the baby's grandmother. She took the stroller with the child out into the cold and hid it in the yard. This happened at around 5 a.m. on January 1st. The woman broke into her neighbor's house, whom, according to the investigation, she disliked. Inside, the homeowner's daughter and her newborn granddaughter were sleeping. The baby was in a stroller. The elderly woman took the child outside and turned off the streetlight so the stroller wouldn't be visible from the porch. The child was left out in the cold, dressed only in a light shirt. The stroller was accidentally found by the child's father. The baby spent several hours outside. Fortunately, the doctors managed to save the little girl. The woman's actions were classified as unlawful entry into a residence and attempted deprivation of a minor's life. She partially admitted her guilt. The court sentenced her to 8 years in a general regime penal colony. And this is the year 2024. Altai Republic. On January 3rd, in one of the private houses in the village, the body of a 4-month-old baby was found, along with his 2-year-old brother, who was alive but in serious condition. The children were alone in a cold house after their mother left days ago. According to the investigation, the 21-year-old woman left for a neighboring village on December 31st, leaving the children without supervision, food, or heating. One child was 2 and the other under 5 months old. The woman didn't return on January 1st or 2nd. On the 3rd, the grandfather visited and found his grandchildren. The baby was already dead. The older child was barely breathing. He was taken to the Republican hospital. He is now out of danger. The mother was detained in a neighboring village. All this time she was celebrating New Year's. According to the prosecutor's office, the family had not previously been registered or come to the attention of supervisory authorities. February 2019, Moscow. The mother took her 6-year-old son to the park, put a bag over his head, wrapped it with tape so he couldn't free himself, and left him there. The sources for this story, as well as for the others, will be in the post on Telegram. The child spent about 13 hours in the cold. He managed to get out of the bag and make his way to the highway, where he was noticed by drivers. Meanwhile, the woman went to the police to file a missing person report and claimed that her son had run away from home. When everything became clear, she began to deny her guilt, although she admitted that she acted cruelly. Experts determined that she suffers from schizophrenia. The court excluded the charge of attempted murder and reclassified the case under the article of leaving in danger. The woman was sentenced to compulsory treatment. November 2019, Moscow region. On Mother's Day, passers-by found a crying baby girl about 1.5 months old, wrapped in a blanket in the bushes. The baby, abandoned in the cold, was quickly taken to the hospital. A criminal case was opened for endangerment. Soon, the child's mother came to the police and started saying that she had left her daughter with an acquaintance and didn't know why the child ended up on the street. But when they started asking her for more details, she quickly got confused and was caught lying. She had to tell the truth. She simply didn't want to take care of her daughter. So on the evening of November 24, she threw her into the bushes, hoping the child would die. The temperature outside was -5 degrees. I understood that the child could die, but I still decided to leave her, the suspect said. According to the woman, she needed to leave. She was going to Moscow to work and the baby would have been a burden for her.
What did you do?
I left my little child on Krugachka Street.
When?
24.
November 24th, 2019.
Why did you leave the child outside?
I didn't want to take her with me.
Where?
To Moscow?
2021, Tatarstan. In mid-January, a 22-year-old woman brought her 1-year-old son to a shed and laid him on the ground in light clothing. Then she brought her 4-year-old daughter there and locked the children in the 30-degree frost. Later, the woman changed her mind, returned to the shed, took the older girl back into the house and went to sleep with her, leaving the baby to freeze. In the morning, the children's grandmother returned from her shift and found the boy in the shed with severe hypothermia. He survived, but suffered serious harm to his health. His older sister had frostbite on her right hand. The mother was sentenced to 2 years in a general regime colony. The defendant admitted her guilt but insisted that she did not intend to deprive her children of life. The woman was deprived of her parental rights, but she plans to appeal this decision. The children are now in a shelter in Kazan. Their grandmother also lost her parental rights previously. In January 2018, passers-by in Stavropol saw a parked car with a crying 8-year-old child inside. The engine was off. It was freezing outside. Police were called and barely persuaded the child to warm up in another car until his mother arrived. The police waited for about 3 hours after arriving, and they found the owner's phone number by the car's license plate and called the mother, asking her to pick up her child. Witnesses said she arrived, cursed everyone, and claimed she'd only been gone 5 minutes. It was about 40 minutes from the call to the police until she arrived. But no one had any proof that the child was in mortal danger, and no one took the investigation seriously. The woman managed to avoid criminal liability. No one knows how the child is living in such a family now. 2020 Pavlodar. On the evening of November 26, a 33-year-old woman arrived at the Pavlodar railway station by taxi from the city of Semey with her 1.5-year-old son. There, she left the boy at the tram stop in -11 degrees and drove away. Fortunately for the little boy, passers-by immediately noticed him and called the police. The police and volunteers found the mother just a few hours later. A criminal case was initiated for abandonment in danger. The child was handed over to his grandmother along with his 9-year-old older brother. It is known that the mother was not married and had long wanted to get rid of the baby, who was interfering with her personal life. The woman fully admitted her guilt. The victim in the case was recognized as the child's grandmother, the defendant's mother. The trial's outcome was unexpected. Due to the reconciliation of the parties and the woman's admission of guilt, she was released from criminal liability. Despite the fact that it was proven she did not accidentally forget the child at the bus stop, but had deliberately chosen this way to get rid of her son. On Strashnota I have a video about Yelena Triboy. The video is entirely dedicated to the story of how a mother tried to get rid of her children. Google the query Strashnota, where did you bury him? A preview with the text left her son in the forest, or the case of Irina Shatova. Google the query Strashnota threw her son in the trash. These will be feature-length stories, but for now a few more short ones. 2018 Khabarovsk region. 16-year-old Maxim Skvortsov saw a stroller with a 1-year-old child on the road on his way home. There were no adults nearby. Then the schoolboy took the child and brought him to his parents, where they warmed him up and changed his clothes. Later it turned out that the drunk mother went for a walk with the child, and when her hands got cold, she went back home for mittens and fell asleep. She only noticed her son was missing a day later. A criminal case was opened against the woman under the article "Leaving in Danger." The punishment for this is rather mild, up to a year in prison, but more often it's just a fine or corrective labor. The teenager who saved the baby received a certificate of appreciation from the Ministry of Internal Affairs for assisting the police. And now we smoothly return to our main story, to Lilia. Now that you know a lot of very scary cases, you understand better why. Did the police officers, who see so many cases of maternal cruelty every winter, not believe that the tourist Ramazanova left her children in danger by accident? The investigators knew the family had long-standing discord and that the woman took the children to the mountains without her husband's knowledge. It's impossible to say exactly what outcome she was hoping for, but it's worth noting that the boy survived because his sister gave him her jacket, not their mother. But it's almost impossible to prove criminal intent in such a situation. Moreover, as you may have noticed from the examples above, cruel mothers rarely receive any serious punishment, even in cases where children die. After the tragedy, Lilia Ramazanova was transferred to a hospital in Kazan. She was under the care of psychiatrists and received long-term treatment because her condition was severe. Gradually, she began to recover. In April 2015, the Investigative Committee of Russia for Bashkortostan initiated a criminal case under Article 109 causing death by negligence. In June 2015, the case was sent to court. During the trial, Ramazanova stated that she did not consider herself guilty. She said she did not ask for help because she did not realize how serious everything was. The court found her guilty and sentenced her to 1 year of restriction of freedom. Taking into account the time she spent in the hospital and her severe psycho-emotional state, the sentence was considered suspended. In September 2015, the sentence came into force. Later, it became known that Lilia Ramazanova was granted amnesty, to be continued. During the trial, she suddenly stopped denying her guilt and began to repent. This moved the judges. They decided that the woman had suffered enough and granted her amnesty. This completely freed Lilia Ramazanova from criminal liability. This episode sparked a new wave of debate. Some people saw the court's decision as humane and fair, while others called it a slap in the face to common sense and to the memory of the deceased girl. Write in the comments what you think about this. After the trial, Lilia lived in Kazan. For some time, she was seeing a psychiatrist. She did not give interviews and did not appear in public. Her son continued his treatment. Journalists tried to get in touch with her from time to time, but without success. At the end of 2016, there was a report that she had left Tatarstan. Since then, there have been no new mentions of her. People were looking for someone to blame, looking for logic, but there was no logic. There was only a girl with one lung who gave her jacket to her brother and was left lying in the snow. She died afterward. But let's try to understand the personality of Lilia Ramazanova. I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist, just an amateur enthusiast, and believe psychoanalyzing someone from afar is only a mental exercise. And you definitely shouldn't take such an action seriously, but I'll try anyway. So, Lilia Ramazanova, the overall picture of her personality. Lilia is a woman with a pronounced religious and mystical mindset, living detached from reality. She demonstrates a fanatical belief in chosenness, a mission, a spiritual path, while ignoring the objective danger to her children's health as well as the advice of doctors and teachers. Her actions combine self-confidence, avoidance of responsibility, and a conviction in the existence of some higher purpose. This is about deep discipline, dissociation from the outside world, and rational norms. A psychotic disorder outside of schizophrenia, judging by phrases like "the mountains took their victim," "that's what the spirits decided." It could be an acute psychotic disorder with delusional ideas. An adjustment disorder with psychotic features due to stress or loss is also possible. Elements of Kandinsky-Clérambault syndrome. There may be experiences of influence and feelings of internally induced decisions. For example, the idea that spirits decide one's fate, alexithymia, the inability to recognize emotions, both one's own and others, as well as inattention to physical and emotional signals in oneself and in children. Narcissistic and schizoid traits, detachment, belief in one's special destiny, neglect of the needs of loved ones, including children, and borderline traits. Extreme all-or-nothing decision-making, swings between grandiosity and feeling like nothing, and a lack of clear boundaries between the inner and outer world. The refusal of medicine, normal food, shoes, and clothing was explained by spiritual practices and the pursuit of health. Choosing a route by following in the footsteps of another lost person seemed like an unconscious rehearsal of sacrifice. After his daughter's death, there was not grief, but a mystical interpretation. She was confident that the situation was normal, to the point that she didn't even ask for help. A lack of attachment to social structures, to school, medicine, or the law. She underwent a psychiatric evaluation for the case. She was found to be sane, but her condition was severe. She was probably diagnosed with a mental disorder as part of a stress reaction, such as acute stress disorder with psychotic features or an episodic reality perception disorder. The full diagnosis was not disclosed, but she was treated in a psychiatric hospital and later was recognized as needing treatment but not posing a danger. And if you want a similar but entertaining analysis of your personality, I'll probably leave a link to a post on how to get it under the video. Leave comments, like, dislike, and watch other videos on the channel. They come out even though you don't always get notifications about them. And yes, these are not artificial intelligence generated videos. These videos are completely human made, even though the scripts are written in beautiful literary language.